Pleasure to welcome Dr. Kweh Soon Han. Dr. Kweh Soon Han is a lawyer in practice. He's an elected member of Singapore Buddhist Federation's Council. He also serves as the Vice Chairman of Singapore Buddhist Federation's Dharma Propagation Committee. Lion Roars is one of his key propagation activities. Can we have Dr. Kweh, please?
Very good morning, everyone in this forum. I'm not able to share my screen because it says host disabled participant. Could the organizer help me to allow me to share screen, please?
Yeah,
Thank
they're
you.
trying to sort that one out. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm in.
Are you able to? Yeah, great.
Yes, yes. Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, all right. So very good morning, everyone. And thank you to the organizers for allowing me some time to participate in today's conference and also to share the Buddha's teachings on how to handle the COVID, and hopefully some of these timeless teachings of our Lord Buddha can help some of you all. So I took this picture, which I saw a quite interesting picture recently. This was a picture of the statue or the icon of one of Buddhist famous Bodhisattva, or what we call an enlightened being called Kuan Yin, which many people know. And this was taken in Japan, where the temple administrators put up this mask, and covered the face, And I think this picture is representative of the Buddhist approach towards the pandemic. And it is not that the Bodhisattva, the Kuan Yin, cannot protect herself, but just that it is a message that in such things, the first and most important message is to self-help. This is important. By protecting ourselves, we also protect others. So it's just like if the Prime Minister were to wear a mask, it is a message to everybody that we should all wear a mask. So this is like our role model. If the role model wears a mask, then I think it is a message. So this was actually done with the intention to encourage people in the earlier part of the COVID that everybody should wear a mask, because at that time, there were some people still resisting. So I thought this is quite an appropriate picture here to show everybody. Now, one of the central teachings of the Lord Buddha is that there are certain inescapables. This is a fact of life. 4 things which we accept is something that you cannot prevent: birth, aging, sickness, and death. So everybody, according to our teachings, must always be born. When you die, you'll be born again. And when you're born, the program starts. When you're born, you automatically start to age. And with aging comes sickness. And with sickness comes death. And the whole process repeats itself. So having understood that this is inescapable, or something one cannot avoid, then we must understand how one reacts to it. If there are certain things that cannot be changed, then you need to have a very skillful approach toward these things. You could get yourself very miserable when you fall sick or there are a lot of people very concerned that they are aging. In fact, prevention of aging to the beauty industry is worth until $5 trillion in the world, because people are very scared to age. And also death, sickness is another multi-trillion dollars. So for the Buddha and his teachers, that our teachers teach us, is that because these are inescapables, then there is an approach we can take. In Buddhism, the Buddha taught we are not some helpless victims of some unavoidable universal laws. Externally, yes, these things are unavoidable. But internally, we have a choice. And the choice is how we approach these forms. I like it when one of my teachers taught me, when I first learned Buddhism, that we must see sickness, aging, death as a friend, not as an enemy. Many of us look at aging as an enemy, sickness as an enemy, death as an enemy. But to the Buddha, we should see this not as an enemy, because you always have an option to see things enemy or as a friend. And my teachers always taught me we should see as a friend. When you are sick or when you are going to approach death, we always look it as an old friend has come to visit you. And so we always tell our members that if you're very sick, you should always say, my old friend, you have come to visit me again. You know, or when you are going to die, we always teach those who are dying, an old friend is coming to visit you. If you see things as a friend, I think the perspective changes completely. If you see something as an enemy, of course, you would react with a lot of fear. And fear is one of the worst things that we can ever hope to have when we are dying or when we are aging. So likewise, COVID is something that you cannot prevent. It is part of what in Buddhism we call Dharma. Dharma means the natural law. No one creates it. It is timeless. It goes on and on. After this COVID, I'm sure there'll be another one, and then another one. And then we will all recover, and then another one. So this is another central teaching of the Buddha. It's about impermanence, that everything is impermanent, you know, and we must know how to skillfully use this. So let me go to the next slide. So because today we're talking and concentrating on the COVID, so I'm just concentrating on number 3, which is sickness. So in sickness, we always look at sickness as basically 3 types. It manifests itself into 3 ways. It could be minor, it could manifest itself into a major degree, or it could be terminal. We have seen this happening every day, the newspapers and the news report. The number of people infected, you know, and of course, sadly, some of them have passed on. So we can only, when we look at this unavoidable aspect of sickness, there are only 3 ways it manifests itself. A minor, it could be major, it could be terminal. Now, in any of these 3 things, as taught by the Buddha, only 4 outcomes can come out of this. If you take medicine, without medical treatment, some people die. Some people without medical treatment recovers. We know this. Like some people who had COVID, unfortunately didn't seek medical treatment, dies. Some without medical treatment recovers because of their immunity, you know. Some even after having taken medical treatment also die. Some must take medical treatment. If he takes medical treatment, then he or she recovers. So this is the only 4 consequences of having sickness. So the important point is when you have COVID, okay, I'm sure all of us in the room here do not have, but our approach is if you have it or when you have it, okay, don't despair. All right, please go for your proper medical treatment and then leave the rest to, we say, your merits. So the point is that since all sickness is unavoidable, we have a choice, okay, to lessen its impact. So there are many things we can do. We can react it with despair, you know, we can approach it with the right frame of mind. So from the Buddhist approach, if you have COVID, you know, there are many things you can do. One, of course, if you haven't had it, then you should prevent it. And this is where we must be wise, you know, we must follow the medical advice by the professionals. All right. For us, for the spiritual aspect, that is, for the spiritual matters, you follow the spiritual advices. For the earthly human afflictions, then you must follow the professional. This is what in Buddhism we call the skillful way. So if you are sick, and sickness is basically a physical, I mean, a huge component of it is a physical aspect of sickness, then please follow advice of qualified medical professionals. Okay, and these are constantly in Singapore issued by the Ministry of Health, doctors and nurses. So I think these are all the things we all know. Basic hygiene rules, use masks. If you haven't gone for vaccination, please go for vaccination. If you have gone for and you qualify, go for your booster shots. Avoid crowded places. Do what is required. And if you are infected, we always say, please follow medical advice. Okay, don't spread the virus. Cooperate with wherever you are staying. Don't be a nuisance to the health takers, health givers, and the nurses and the doctors who look after you. Now, this is basically the physical aspect. Now, let's look at the perhaps I call it the mental aspect. The Buddha taught that in everything, there are three ways to handle it. Okay, so I've shown two sets of pictures here that COVID has invoked a lot of different reactions and emotions and also activities. On the right side, you could see that when the COVID first started, okay, many people reacted with panic, okay, with a lot of greed, a lot of selfishness, a lot of hoarding. And supermarkets in Hong Kong, in China, were all emptied within minutes, all right? And then another reaction here would be also some people took to hurting others. In Europe, for an example, in UK, you have unfortunately the student who was beaten up, okay, because of his ethnic association. Okay, at the time it was said that it came from Wuhan, and many people reacted, and when they saw people who look Asian, East Asian, they beat them up, and this is because the reaction was out of hatred, of anger and destruction. Then there's a third way which people could react is by ignorance, not understanding, okay, how to handle or how to cure. Here you have a picture in Africa when somebody said if you drink Dettol, you can get cured. So this is a picture of unfortunately, a person who believes and she's being fed Dettol. So that's one way we can handle. So in Buddhism, it is important there are two ways to handle. We call it the unskillful way, and the other one is the skillful way. This is an approach towards something that is unavoidable. So you have a choice. The first one that the Buddha taught was that one should react with generosity and charity. Okay. So during the COVID, you could see that a quarter or some some of the people reacted very differently. Okay, this is across the world. You have people coming forward, and what they did was they got food. They started to get people around them. They started to distribute food for those who were too slow to go to the supermarkets, and the supermarkets are all empty. So then there was this group of people who came. I know friends not only in Singapore but in overseas. They do packing of food. They pack food, they bring food to the houses, they distributed groceries. So what they did was, this pandemic is an opportunity, a rare opportunity for a lot of people to come together to practice generosity and charity. And that will dilute the environment of greed, of hoarding and selfishness. So that's the first one the Buddha taught us. The second approach the Buddha taught us is that we should practice kindness and compassion. And as you knew from not only this picture I've shown, but I'm sure you've read the papers, that COVID also have precipitated a lot of hatred, greed, and destruction. The antidote that the Buddha say is not by reacting hatred and anger with hatred and anger. Because if you do that, there will never be an end. So the antidote to hatred, anger, and destruction is the opposite. It is what we call metta. Metta means loving kindness. And in English, we call it an unconditional kindness and compassion and mercy. And here, what we can do is, as not only as a society, but as a world, for people, as many people to come together to practice kindness and compassion. And this is where we express kindness and compassion to all those who are affected, and also those who are in the front line. So we have a picture here, which I took in Singapore recently, where communities from both religious, civic, and many other sectors in the Singapore society who came forward to thank our frontline heroes, our nurses, our doctors, our cleaners, our civil defense people, immigration, anybody who's in the front line handling this. And we know with COVID now increasing to about 3,000 every day, and I think they have told us to be prepared for it to go up to 5,000 and eventually even 10,000 every day before it comes down even the more, because all these are, in Buddhism, we call causes and conditions. They are the causes and conditions to ignite hatred, panic among our people in Singapore. Not only in Singapore, but anywhere in every society. But this is a time we all have to come together mutually by ourselves, and also together with people from different communities, religious groups, ethnic group, or people who do good, to come together to practice kindness and compassion. This will be the second antidote in such an event. And the third one is what the Buddha taught us, is to practice wisdom and understanding. So with the present COVID, of course, because this is once in a lifetime, I call it, never happened before, Naturally, there will be people who will circulate fake news, contradictory news, and it is important for us here to stay calm. For Buddhists, we tell our members to practice meditation. But if you do not meditate, of course, the approach is always to seek clarification, because that's one aspect of wisdom. The essence of wisdom in Buddhism is always to have an inquiring mind. It is not a belief in anything that you read, but always to question and investigate. And if you do not know, do not keep quiet. Go out, get the information, discuss with people. The more people you listen to, the more wise you will make your decision. So this is the third thing that we will approach, that Buddhist approach is to practice wisdom, clarity, and understanding, because this will be a very good approach to handling fake news, wrong view, panic, and fear. Because when you know the truth, I think we all will find that we are on the right path, and this will make us clear in our minds how to handle the pandemic. So this is the three approaches that a Buddhist will take. One, practicing generosity and charity. Secondly, kindness and compassion. And the third one is what we call wisdom and understanding. So we know that the COVID itself is, I call it a historical thing, never happened before. The last time when we had such a big scale kind of a pandemic was about 100 years ago. So in one way, as a Buddhist or anyone can do is we can approach it with a lot of fear, with a lot of worry, okay? On the other hand, we can react with, we have a choice, here we have a choice. We can react with the right attitude. We call it the skillful approach. And this skillful approach will be these three activities we can do. So in conclusion, I would like to share that this is a very unfortunate but unavoidable episode in our lives, not only in Singapore, but in worldwide. A teacher once told me, a Buddhist teacher once told me that as we were discussing, she said to me, she said, do you know that there is another pandemic coming? So I was very shocked. I said, oh, really? Which pandemic? Which flu is it? Which virus? And she smiled. She said, there is another pandemic coming, Soon Han, he said. And this pandemic is the pandemic of unconditional love, generosity, kindness. And we must take this opportunity to react in that way. Just as there's a pandemic of this physical ailment called SARS or COVID, we can also counteract. We have the choice, we have the willpower, we have the heart, we have the kindness in us. Because we are all humans, we have a choice. Nobody can do that for us. Only we ourselves can do. So let us start another great pandemic. A pandemic that is even more powerful than COVID, that all the destructions and hatred he has created. Let's create a pandemic based on unconditional love, generosity, and kindness. So that when this pandemic is over, as nothing is permanent in this world, it will pass 2 years, 3 years, it could even be 10 years. But when this passes over, we, not only in Singapore, but in the whole world, can be very happy because we have skillfully made use of this situation to transform something that is destructive to something that is very constructive. So on that note, I'd like to end my talk and like to again thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to share a little of the words of the Buddha with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kweh. Thank you so much.